Our planet hides a secret blueprint in plain sight. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, the stone circles of Britain, and the jungle temples of Cambodia are not isolated wonders. They are points on a vast, invisible network, connected by a shared language of mathematical precision. This video will reveal the astonishing evidence for a global code embedded in ancient sites, a discovery that could rewrite the story of human history. By the end, you will see the world map not as a collection of separate nations, but as a single, interconnected design from a forgotten age. How did cultures separated by oceans and millennia use the same sacred geometry? What forgotten knowledge allowed them to align their monuments with the stars and the Earth itself with such impossible accuracy? The answers point to a mystery far deeper than any single civilization. What does it mean if our entire past is connected by a hidden pattern? This vision of a connected world is not a modern invention. It is the core of what researchers call the global grid theory. Picture the Earth not as a spinning ball of rock and water, but as a crystalline structure, a geometric form with precise lines of energy and alignment stretching across its surface. According to this framework, our most revered ancient sites were not placed by chance or local convenience alone. They were deliberately positioned as nodes or connection points on this vast, invisible network. Some refer to this as the world grid, an ancient blueprint written into the landscape itself. The idea suggests that our ancestors possessed a form of sacred geography, a science sometimes called geomancy, which understood the Earth as a living being with specific energetic pathways. They built their temples and pyramids at the powerful intersections of these lines, much like acupuncture points on the human body. A key figure in exploring these concepts was the researcher John Mitchell, who argued for a prehistoric science that saw number, geometry, and the land as one unified system. This grid is thought by some to be connected to the planet's own subtle energy fields, its magnetic currents, or even the underlying geometry of space itself, often linked to the perfect forms known as the Platonic solids. And at the heart of this proposed global system sits a likely anchor point, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its precise location and unparalleled geometric sophistication make it a prime candidate for being a central node in this planetary design. This theory moves us from admiring individual, isolated wonders to contemplating a coordinated, planet-wide project of staggering intent. It asks us to see these monuments not as separate achievements, but as chapters in a single, global story written in stone and earth. The blueprint of the global grid is written in a silent, visual language. This is the language of sacred geometry. Look at the perfect symmetry of a snowflake, the elegant spiral of a seashell, or the branching pattern of a tree. Nature itself operates on a set of underlying mathematical principles, a code of repeating shapes and harmonious proportions. Ancient cultures around the world observed this code and believed these perfect forms held a deeper spiritual significance. They saw geometry not just as a tool for measurement, but as a direct bridge between our physical world and the divine order of the cosmos. By encoding these shapes into their most important structures, they were attempting to mirror heaven on earth, to create a permanent anchor for sacred energy. This is why we find the same precise ratios and forms in temples separated by vast oceans and thousands of years. It points to a shared understanding, a universal language spoken not with words but with stone. To understand this language, we need to learn a few of its key characters. The first is pi, the famous ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, approximately 3.14. This infinite, irrational number appears with stunning accuracy in the Great Pyramid of Giza. The pyramid's base perimeter, when divided by twice its original height, yields a figure extraordinarily close to pi. This suggests the pyramid's builders were not merely stacking blocks, they were encoding fundamental cosmic constants into architecture. Then there is the golden ratio, often represented by the Greek letter phi, approximately 1.618. This ratio is celebrated for its unique aesthetic harmony, where a whole line relates to its larger segment, just as that larger segment relates to the smaller one. We see it in classical art, in the growth patterns of plants, and profoundly in ancient architecture. The facade of the Parthenon in Athens is famously framed within a golden rectangle, its proportions carefully designed to please the eye and, they believed, the soul. Another critical shape is the square root of 2, about 1.414, which emerges from the diagonal of a perfect square. This ratio governs the octagon and is deeply connected to concepts of balance and transition. These are not random numbers chosen for convenience. They are expressions of pure mathematical relationships, constants that exist independently of any single culture. The stunning fact is that builders from the deserts of Egypt to the highlands of Mexico and the plains of Cambodia independently incorporated these same ratios into their sacred sites. This cannot be a coincidence. It strongly implies a common, advanced source of cosmological knowledge, a lost science that understood the universe as a geometric construct. When you stand before the Great Pyramid or study the plans of Angkor Wat, you are not just looking at a building, you are reading a sentence in a global dialogue, a message left in the universal language of mathematics, waiting centuries for us to finally comprehend its grammar. That silent language of geometry speaks most clearly through alignment. The Great Pyramid of Giza offers perhaps the most staggering example of this ancient precision. Its 4 massive base sides are oriented almost perfectly to the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west. The north face aligns with true north with an error of just a fraction of a single degree. To grasp how remarkable this is, consider that many structures built centuries later, even with more advanced tools, do not achieve this level of exactness. This was accomplished over 4,500 years ago, a feat that required not just skilled labor, but a profound and intimate understanding of the earth and the heavens. So how did they do it? Researchers suggest several methods that could have been employed, each revealing a sophisticated grasp of astronomy. One theory points to the pole star of that era, a star called Thuban in the constellation Draco. By carefully tracking its circular path around the true celestial pole over many nights, ancient astronomers could have pinpointed north with incredible accuracy. Another method involves using the sun's shadow. During an equinox, when day and night are of equal length, the tip of a vertical rod's shadow traces a straight line running perfectly east to west. By marking this line and bisecting the angle, a true north-south line can be established. This alignment to the cardinal points is far more than a technical marvel. It roots the pyramid symbolically to the cosmos, tying it to the eternal, unchanging axis of the world. And this practice was not unique to Egypt. Across the Atlantic, in the ancient city of Teotihuacan in Mexico, the Avenue of the Dead and its towering pyramids are also aligned with extraordinary precision to celestial north. The fact that 2 cultures separated by an ocean and millennia both achieved such accurate cardinal orientation suggests something profound. It points to a shared, perhaps even standardized, understanding of our planet's place in the cosmos. This was not local folklore. It was a global science, a conscious decision to harmonize human creation with the fundamental order of the universe itself. The stones were not just placed, they were precisely tuned to the spin of the earth. But alignment to the fixed north is only one part of the celestial story. The sun and moon themselves move, tracing a grand, predictable dance across the sky. Ancient builders were master choreographers of this dance, constructing monuments that captured its most dramatic moments. On the Salisbury Plain in England, as the first light of the summer solstice breaks the horizon, a breathtaking event unfolds. The rising sun aligns perfectly with a single, tilted stone known as the heel stone, its rays shooting directly into the center of the Stonehenge circle, illuminating the altar stone. This is no accident of placement. The entire arrangement of these massive sarsen stones functions as a sophisticated astronomical observatory, built over 1,000 years before the Great Pyramid. The outer circle and inner horseshoe of trilithons are positioned to mark not just the summer solstice sunrise, but also the winter solstice sunset and the extreme rising and setting points of the moon over its long, 18.6-year cycle. This was a civilization deeply attuned to the rhythms of time, using megalithic architecture as a permanent calendar etched into the earth. A strikingly similar concept appears on the other side of the Atlantic, in the arid landscape of Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. High on a cliff face at a site called Fajada Butte, 3 large stone slabs lean against the rock. On the summer solstice, a dagger of sunlight slices perfectly through the center of a carved spiral petroglyph behind them. On the winter solstice, 2 daggers of light bracket the spiral, and during the equinoxes, a single beam of light bisects it with perfect symmetry. This sun dagger is a celestial timepiece of stunning elegance, created by the ancestral Puebloan people centuries ago. The parallel is profound. 2 cultures separated by an ocean with no known contact, both developed monumental architecture designed to interact with the sun on the exact same pivotal days of the year. This could suggest independent genius, separate groups of sky watchers arriving at identical conclusions about the solar cycle through pure observation. Yet, the shared focus on solstices and equinoxes, the most fundamental markers of the seasonal year, also hints at something more. It points to a universal human impulse to understand and codify cosmic order, and perhaps to a very old, foundational tradition of astronomical knowledge that informed how early societies across the globe chose to mark their most sacred days. The stones of Stonehenge and the cliff of Chaco Canyon are not just observing the sky. They are in conversation with it, capturing a fleeting moment of light and holding it forever in stone, a shared testament to humanity's ancient quest to measure the heavens. The presence of pi in the Great Pyramid is a mathematical signature, a whisper of advanced knowledge in stone. But what if this same whisper echoed across the world thousands of years later? A journey from the sands of Egypt to the jungles of Cambodia reveals an astonishing parallel. The sprawling temple complex of Angkor Wat, built in the 12th century, appears to hold the same mathematical secret. Researchers studying its layout have noted something extraordinary. The distance from the center of the temple's main tower to the outer edge of its surrounding moat, and then again to a further boundary, creates a ratio that closely approximates pi. This is not a single measurement, but a proportional relationship embedded in the very geography of the sacred site, mirroring the same principle found in the pyramid's form. This connection across continents and centuries defies simple explanation. It moves us beyond coincidence into the realm of intentional design. For both the ancient Egyptians and the Khmer builders, pi was far more than a number for calculating circles. It represented a fundamental truth of the cosmos, a constant that governed the relationship between a circle's boundary and its central point, a symbol of the infinite and the cyclical nature of existence. By encoding this irrational, never-ending number into their most important structures, they were doing something profound. They were attempting to permanently fix a piece of cosmic order into the human landscape. This practice suggests these cultures viewed their temples not just as places of prayer, but as spiritual machines designed to harmonize with the immutable laws of the universe. The Great Pyramid and Angkor Wat, separated by over 3,500 years, become points in a continuous conversation, a dialogue conducted not in a shared spoken language, but in the silent, perfect language of geometry. This shared use of pi points to a startling possibility. It implies a common, perhaps even inherited, understanding of sacred mathematics, a science that saw number as the very fabric of reality. That same sense of cosmic harmony is echoed in a different, equally profound mathematical constant. While pi speaks to the circle and the infinite, another number whispers of perfect proportion and aesthetic balance. This is the golden ratio, often symbolized by the Greek letter phi, a value close to 1.618. You encounter it without even knowing in the graceful spiral of a nautilus shell, the arrangement of petals on a sunflower, and even in the branching of your own veins. It is a pattern nature repeats because it is efficient and inherently pleasing. The ancient world recognized this pattern as something more, a divine proportion, a visual key to beauty itself. Nowhere is this more elegantly demonstrated than in the ruins of the Parthenon, crowning the Acropolis in Athens. When you look at its majestic facade, you are not just seeing columns and stone. You are witnessing a rectangle of perfect harmony. Modern analysis shows that the ratio of the building's width to its height and the relationships between many of its key elements align closely with the golden ratio. The architects did not use it by accident. They employed it as a conscious design principle, believing that by building according to this celestial mathematics, they were infusing their temple to Athena with an eternal, divine grace. It was architecture as philosophy, stone embodying an ideal. This pursuit of phi was not confined to the Mediterranean. Thousands of miles away, in the highlands of central Mexico, the builders of the immense city of Teotihuacan may have been guided by the same principle. Scholars examining the Grand Avenue of the Dead and the colossal Pyramid of the Sun have found that the proportions between the pyramid's base, its height, and its setbacks create relationships that again resonate with the golden ratio. The entire ceremonial complex feels balanced, powerful, and strangely harmonious, a quality that visitors still feel today. This shared architectural language reaches its most personal expression in the work of Leonardo da Vinci. His famous Vitruvian Man, a drawing of a man inscribed within a circle and square, explores the ideal human proportions described by the Roman architect Vitruvius. The distances between key points of the body, the navel to the feet versus the total height, for example, align beautifully with phi. This suggests that the golden ratio is not just an abstract number or an artistic trick. It appears to be a fundamental code for organic growth and form, a bridge between the geometry of the cosmos and the very blueprint of life. When cultures as disparate as classical Greece and ancient Mesoamerica incorporated this same ratio into their most sacred spaces, they were doing more than seeking beauty. They were asserting a profound belief that their temples, their cities, were microcosms of a perfectly ordered universe. By building with phi, they were aligning human creation with the deepest patterns of nature and the divine, crafting stone prayers to a harmony they believed was written into the fabric of everything. The silent language of geometry extends beyond shapes and ratios into the very coordinates of the Earth itself. The Great Pyramid of Giza is situated at a specific point on our planet, 29.9792 degrees north latitude. To the modern scientific mind, this number carries a startling echo. The speed of light in a vacuum is 299,792 kilometers per second. The numerical parallel is uncanny, a match that seems to transcend mere chance. While mainstream scholars often attribute this to a remarkable coincidence, it fuels a compelling line of thought among alternative researchers. Could this be another layer of encoded information, a deliberate signal left in the landscape using the very language of the universe? It suggests the pyramid's builders may have understood fundamental constants of physics that science would not formally quantify for thousands of years. This idea of the pyramid as a geodetic marker, a point of reference on the globe, deepens further. Some analyses propose that the pyramid sits at the center of the Earth's landmass, the precise geographic pivot point of all continents. Whether this calculation holds absolute mathematical truth is debated, but the intention behind it is clear. The builders positioned their monument with a global consciousness, an understanding that their creation was part of a planetary, not just a local, scheme. This geodetic precision implies a staggering familiarity with the true shape and size of the Earth, knowledge that should have been impossible for a Bronze Age society. The pyramid's original finish supports this vision of a global beacon. Its outer casing was made of highly polished, gleaming white limestone, stones fitted together with seams thinner than a credit card. In the bright Egyptian sun, this surface would have reflected light with dazzling intensity, visible from immense distances. It was not a Soma tomb hidden in the sand. It was a brilliant monument designed to catch the eye, both from the ground below and perhaps from a perspective far above. When you combine its intentional coordinates, its potential alignment with cosmic constants, and its radiant, reflective surface, a new image of the pyramid emerges. It transforms from a static structure into an active component of a planetary system, a fixed point of light and mathematics deliberately placed on the skin of the Earth. This level of planning speaks of a civilization that did not see itself as an isolated kingdom, but as a participant in a far grander, perhaps even a cosmic order. The stones themselves hold the key to a forgotten standard. While we marvel at alignments and geometry, the builders needed something far more practical, a consistent way to translate their grand designs from mind to monument. They needed a ruler. For decades, this seemed an impossible puzzle, with every ancient site appearing to use its own local system of measure. Then, a Scottish engineer named Alexander Thom embarked on a remarkable quest. He personally surveyed over 600 megalithic sites across Britain and France, from lonely standing stones to complex rings like Avebury. He took thousands of precise measurements, compiling data in an era before laser scanning, driven by a simple question. Were these monuments built at random or by design? His analysis revealed a pattern so consistent it stunned the archaeological world. Thom proposed that the builders used a standardized unit of length, which he called the Megalithic Yard. This unit measured approximately 2.72 feet or 82.9 centimeters. Crucially, this was not a rough estimate. Thom found that the diameters, perimeters, and spacings of the stone circles were almost always whole multiples or simple fractions of this megalithic yard. The evidence suggested these ancient engineers were working from precise blueprints, using a common measurement as faithfully as a modern builder uses a meter stick. But the implications are far greater than neat construction. The existence of a standardized unit across such a wide area implies a shared knowledge system. It suggests organized communication, perhaps even formal training or a guild of builders who traveled and shared techniques. This was not a series of isolated villages occasionally stacking rocks. This points to a coordinated cultural tradition with the ability to transmit and enforce precise building codes over generations and across hundreds of miles. The mystery deepens when we look further. Some researchers have noted that key dimensions of the Great Pyramid of Giza can also be expressed using a unit very close to the megalithic yard. While this connection is more controversial and not accepted by mainstream Egyptology, the numerical parallel is provocative. Could there be a thread connecting the megalithic builders of Europe to the pyramid architects of Egypt? A common unit of measure would be the most practical evidence of such a link, a shared tool in a global builder's kit. Whether that link was direct or emerged from a deeper, common source of ancient metrology, the megalithic yard stands as a silent witness. It tells us that long before empires and written history, there was order, precision, and a shared language of dimension that allowed humanity to inscribe its grandest ideas upon the earth. A standardized unit of measurement implies a shared blueprint, but the map itself holds an even grander pattern. If you trace a line of latitude around the globe at 30 degrees north, you are tracing a thread that connects some of humanity's most pivotal sites. The Great Pyramid of Giza does not sit precisely on this line, but extraordinarily close at just under 30 degrees. This is no random placement. Follow this invisible circle eastward, and it intersects the ancient Persian capital of Persepolis, a ceremonial center of immense power and sophistication. Continue across the globe, and this same parallel touches the mouth of the Mississippi River, a site of profound significance for numerous indigenous cultures long before European contact. The likelihood of such culturally critical locations aligning by pure chance along a single, precise line of latitude stretches credulity. It points instead to a possible intentionality, a geodetic strategy where specific parallels held sacred or practical meaning. The significance of 30 degrees north may be astronomical. At this latitude, the angle of the sun at certain key times of the year, like the solstices, creates specific and memorable shadow lengths and solar effects. Building a major temple or pyramid here could guarantee that sunlight would interact with the structure in a dramatic, predictable, and symbolically powerful way year after year, turning the monument itself into a reliable solar instrument. This pattern repeats on another parallel further north. Draw a line along 48 degrees north latitude across Europe. This line seems to stitch together a constellation of spiritually significant sites. It passes directly through the location of the ancient Celtic sanctuary of Entremont in France, a place of gathering and ritual. It aligns with the old town of Prague, a city steeped in mystical history and architectural wonder. And perhaps most strikingly, it runs very close to the latitude of the Externstein, a remarkable natural rock formation in Germany that has served as a pagan holy site, a hermitage, and an astronomical observatory for millennia. These are not just random dots on a map, they are focal points of cultural memory and celestial observation, all sharing a common geographic address. What could this mean? It suggests that our ancestors may have seen the Earth as a grid, not just of energy but of meaning. Specific latitudes might have been chosen because they offered ideal conditions for tracking the cosmos, or because they held a symbolic value we have yet to fully comprehend. Placing a holy site on a shared parallel could have been a way of connecting it to a global network of sacred geography, a way of saying this place belongs to a greater order. This transforms our view of these monuments from isolated wonders into coordinated landmarks on a planetary scale, a conscious effort to harmonize human endeavor with the mathematical certainty of the sphere we live on. The map, it seems, is not just a record of where they built, but a cryptic message about why. The alignment of monuments with the stars reaches its most provocative expression in Egypt. A single constellation, Orion, seems to have been the target of an architectural obsession. This idea forms the core of the Orion correlation theory proposed by researcher Robert Bovell. He observed that the three great pyramids of Giza, those of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, are not arranged in a perfect line. Instead, they form a distinct offset pattern. Bovell proposed that this pattern is a deliberate mirror on the ground of the three stars that make up Orion's belt. The match is visually striking. The two larger pyramids correspond to the two brighter stars, while the smaller, offset third pyramid matches the dimmer, offset third star. Even the relative distances between the monuments closely approximate the angular distances between the stars as seen from Earth. To complete the celestial map, Bovell suggested the Nile River, flowing to the east of the pyramid complex, was intended to represent the great cosmic river in the sky, the Milky Way. If correct, this transforms the Giza Plateau from a simple necropolis into a scale model of a portion of the heavens, permanently fixing a piece of the cosmos into the desert sands. The implications are profound. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and regenerative power. By building their eternal resting places in the image of his constellation, the pharaohs may have been creating a direct conduit, a stone ladder to the stars, ensuring their souls would ascend to join the immortal gods in the night sky. This was architecture as a vehicle for transcendence. The fascination with Orion appears to transcend Egypt. Across the Atlantic, some researchers point to the layout of the three main pyramids at Teotihuacan in Mexico: the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. They, too, are arranged in a pattern that some argue loosely mirrors the stars of Orion's belt, though this correlation is more debated and less precise than the Giza alignment. Whether a direct connection or a parallel expression of a shared celestial reverence, the repeated focus on this constellation is telling. It suggests that certain star patterns held universal meaning, serving as anchors for creation myths and maps for the journey after life. From the banks of the Nile to the high plains of Mexico, humanity looked up, saw the same hunter in the sky, and felt compelled to bring him down to earth, building mountains to touch the stars and forever linking their destiny to the turning of the heavens. Orion's journey across the sky is not a fixed path. The Earth itself is in a constant, slow-motion dance, a wobble on its axis like a spinning top beginning to tilt. This wobble, called precession, is the key to understanding humanity's most patient observations. Over a cycle of 25,920 years, Earth's rotational pole traces a wide circle in the heavens. This grand cycle is often called the Great Year. As the axis slowly shifts, the entire backdrop of the stars against which the sun rises on the spring equinox gradually changes. The constellation that appears behind the dawn sun on that first day of spring shifts, moving backward through the zodiac over centuries. This means the star we call the North Star today, Polaris, was not always our guide. Thousands of years ago, the star Thuban in the constellation Draco held that position, and thousands of years from now, it will be the brilliant star Vega. This precessional drift is so slow it is nearly imperceptible across a single human lifetime, moving just 1 degree every 72 years. To detect it requires meticulous, generational record-keeping, watching the stars with unwavering dedication for centuries. Yet, astonishingly, ancient cultures across the globe seem to have known about this vast celestial clock. The Vedic texts of India speak of cosmic cycles spanning thousands of years. The Maya, with their incredibly precise long-count calendar, structured time in units that resonate with precessional periods. These are not vague myths about long ages. They are specific numerical traditions that align with the mechanics of our solar system. The evidence is carved in stone. At the Temple of Karnak in Egypt, the great axis of the temple is aligned to the midwinter sunset. But due to precession, the specific point on the horizon where the sun sets on that day shifts minutely over centuries. The alignment of Karnak's corridor is so precise that researchers believe it was designed to capture the sunset at a specific moment in this grand cycle, around 2,000 years before the Common Era. This implies the Egyptian priests were not just marking an annual event, they were tracking a celestial drift that unfolds over millennia. To design a temple for an alignment that would only be perfect for a narrow window in a 26,000-year cycle suggests an astronomical tradition of staggering depth and longevity. It hints at knowledge observed, recorded, and passed down through dozens, perhaps hundreds of generations, a sacred science dedicated to mapping time itself on a scale that dwarfs our own historical memory. This celestial clockwork of precession suggests our ancestors viewed the Earth as a single, integrated system. Now, draw a line on a globe from the sands of Egypt across the vast Pacific to the most isolated inhabited island on Earth. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the silent Moai statues of Easter Island, and the sprawling Nazca lines in Peru are said by some researchers to form a near-perfect great circle triangle around our planet. A great circle route is the shortest distance between any 2 points on a sphere, the path an airplane would fly. When you connect these 3 sites, the geometric relationship is startlingly precise. Each location represents a unique pinnacle of ancient expression. Giza is the ultimate achievement in monumental precision architecture, a mountain of stone aligned to the cosmos. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, is the archetype of the remote megalithic mystery, where hundreds of immense stone figures gaze inland from a tiny volcanic speck in an endless ocean. Nazca, meanwhile, presents an entirely different language, a vast geoglyphic canvas of lines, spirals, and animal figures so enormous they can only be comprehended from the sky, etched into the desert floor of Peru. These are not just 3 random wonders, they are 3 distinct answers to a profound, shared human question. How do we make a permanent mark? How do we speak to the gods or the future? One built up, one carved in isolation, and one drew on the earth itself. The idea that they could be intentionally positioned to form a planetary scale triangle forces a dramatic shift in perspective. It challenges the very notion of ancient isolation. Could a culture capable of navigating the open Pacific from South America to that tiny island have also possessed a geodetic science that understood the Earth as a geometric whole? This triangular connection, whether a breathtaking coincidence or a fragment of a lost blueprint, paints a picture of a world far more connected in deep antiquity than our textbooks allow. It invites us to see these sites not as separate cultural triumphs, but as potential markers on a sacred map defining a triangle of power, mystery, and perhaps a forgotten conversation across the hemispheres. Geometry provides the silent blueprint, but what if these ancient monuments were also designed to be heard? The stones may hold a hidden dimension of knowledge, one that moves from the visual to the vibrational, from shape to sound. This field of study is called Archaeoacoustics, and it listens to the past in a profoundly different way. It explores how ancient structures interact with sound, suggesting that our ancestors built not just for the eye, but for the ear and perhaps even for the body itself. Imagine standing in the heart of a massive stone chamber, like the one deep within the Great Pyramid known as the King's Chamber. If you were to speak or chant there, the acoustics are strangely powerful and clear. Some researchers have measured the resonant frequencies of these spaces, the specific pitches at which the room itself naturally amplifies sound. Intriguingly, these frequencies often fall within ranges that can affect human brainwave patterns, potentially inducing states of deep relaxation or heightened awareness. This raises a fascinating possibility. Were these precision-built chambers not just tombs but resonant chambers, designed to use sound as a tool for ritual, meditation, or even what we might think of as ancient sonic healing? The evidence echoes across the globe. In Ireland, the prehistoric mound of Newgrange, older than both Stonehenge and the pyramids, is a marvel of archaeoacoustics. Its long, narrow passageway, aligned to the winter solstice sunrise, acts as a perfect sound conduit. A single voice or drumbeat at the entrance can be heard with startling clarity deep within the central chamber, while sounds made inside seem to be magnified and focused outward. This was not a random effect of stacking stones. It was an acoustic design, likely intentional, turning the entire structure into a ceremonial instrument. The builders understood that sound, like light, could be channeled and directed by architecture. This knowledge points to an understanding of wave physics and harmonics that we are only beginning to appreciate. They may have seen sound as a tangible force, a vibration that could purify a space, alter consciousness, or communicate with the unseen. This idea connects to a fundamental pulse of the planet itself, known as the Schumann resonance. This is the natural, extremely low-frequency electromagnetic hum that exists in the cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, resonating at about 7.83 Hz. It is the heartbeat of our world, Remarkably, some researchers propose that the resonant frequencies found in ancient sacred sites often harmonize with or are multiples of this fundamental Earth frequency. If true, it suggests a breathtaking synthesis of knowledge. The builders were not just aligning stones with stars, they were tuning their structures to the very vibration of the planet. They were creating spaces where human ceremony could resonate in harmony with the Earth's own energy field. In this view, a temple becomes more than a building. It becomes a carefully calibrated instrument, a bridge between mathematics, music, and spirituality. The precise angles and dimensions that create sacred geometry are the same principles that govern acoustic resonance. The circle, the pyramid, the chamber, these are not just shapes. They are vessels for vibration designed to hold a specific frequency, to amplify a prayer or a chant, and to connect those within to a larger, living cosmos. The ancient world may have spoken in a language we are still learning to hear, a symphony written not in notes but in stone. This obsession with precision finds its most bewildering expression high in the Andes Mountains. At an altitude of nearly 13,000 feet, the wind-swept ruins of Pumapunku in Bolivia present a mystery that dismantles conventional timelines. Here, scattered across a desolate plateau, lie hundreds of massive stone blocks carved from andesite, an exceptionally hard volcanic rock. What stuns every visitor is not their size, but their impossible geometry. These blocks are not roughly hewn, they are machined. They feature razor-sharp edges, perfect 90-degree angles, and surfaces so flat and smooth they could pass for modern industrial countertops. Even more perplexing are the intricate geometric channels and notches cut into them, forming complex interlocking joints that look like pieces from a giant stone puzzle. The precision is so exact, so clean, that it appears to have been achieved with diamond-tipped power tools, not the simple bronze or stone chisels believed available to the Tiwanaku culture around 1500 years ago. The craftsmanship here echoes a similar mystery from another continent. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, the granite sarcophagi in the king's chamber display the same hallmark of impossible precision. Their interior corners are perfectly square, their surfaces polished to a mirror finish, and the joints between lid and base are so tight that not even a sheet of paper can slide through. Two cultures separated by an ocean and centuries, both achieved a level of stonework that modern masons with advanced equipment would struggle to replicate. This shared obsession with flawless geometry points to one of two profound possibilities. The first is the existence of a lost high technology, a method of cutting and shaping stone that has since vanished from history, perhaps involving tools or techniques we have yet to rediscover. The second possibility is even more intriguing. It suggests that these cultures were driven by a philosophical or spiritual imperative that demanded absolute geometric perfection. For them, the act of creating a perfect right angle or a seamless joint may have been a form of worship, a way to impose cosmic order onto chaotic matter. This was not mere construction, it was alchemy, transforming rock into a testament of divine harmony. The scattered blocks of Pumapunku, lying in silent disarray, are not just ruins. They are fragments of a forgotten manual, a challenge carved in stone that asks us how, and more importantly why, ancient hands achieved such impossible perfection. The silent perfection of Pumapunku is not an isolated phenomenon. Across the world, ancient builders employed a different, yet equally baffling technique that defies the logic of simple tools. Look at the Cyclopean walls of Sacsayhuaman, the fortress that overlooks the Inca city of Cusco in Peru. Here, stones the size of small houses, some weighing over 100 tons, are fitted together in a dizzying jigsaw puzzle. Their edges are not straight but a complex series of multi-angled curves and interlocking protrusions. They lock together so tightly that, centuries later, you cannot slide the blade of a knife between them. This is polygonal masonry, the art of constructing walls from massive, irregularly shaped blocks that fit together without a single drop of mortar. The engineering genius of this method is profound. In a region prone to powerful earthquakes, a rigid, straight-walled structure would crack and crumble, but a wall built with these interlocking polygonal stones behaves differently. During a tremor, the stones shift and settle against one another, absorbing and dissipating the energy, then settling back into place. It is a living, breathing architecture designed to dance with the moving earth, a testament to an intimate understanding of both materials and geology. The sheer scale of labor involved is almost incomprehensible. Quarrying these megaliths, transporting them across mountainous terrain, and then painstakingly shaping each unique block to fit its neighbors perfectly represents a monumental investment of human effort and sophisticated skill. This was not the work of a season, but of generations. Yet, this same fingerprint appears on the other side of the world. At the ancient site of Baalbek in Lebanon, within the foundations of the Roman Temple of Jupiter, lie 3 stones known as the trilithon. Each one is estimated to weigh over 800 tons. They are among the largest carved stones ever used in construction, and they are fitted together with the same seamless, mortarless precision. How they were moved and placed remains one of archaeology's greatest unsolved puzzles. From the Andes to the Levant, cultures with no known historical contact arrived at the same complex solution. This presents us with a profound enigma. On one hand, it could represent the brilliant, independent ingenuity of human problem-solving. Faced with the need to build stable, lasting structures with the materials at hand, separate cultures may have simply discovered that interlocking, polygonal stones create the strongest possible wall. It is a logical answer to a universal engineering challenge. On the other hand, the uncanny similarity in technique, scale, and aesthetic suggests something more. It could be the architectural fingerprint of a much older, widespread building tradition, a foundational school of knowledge that was later imitated, inherited, or stumbled upon by separate civilizations who saw the enduring walls of their predecessors and sought to replicate their strength. Whether it was independent genius or inherited legacy, these walls stand as a silent, global testament to a forgotten age of master builders who understood stone not as a dead material, but as a dynamic partner in creating monuments meant to outlast empires. The stones are aligned, but to what end? This universal drive to connect architecture with the sky has given rise to a dedicated field of study known as astroarchaeology. It merges the tools of the astronomer with the trowel of the archaeologist, seeking to understand not just what ancient people built, but why they pointed their greatest works in such specific directions. From the massive solstice markers of Stonehenge to the intricate solar alignments carved into the rock-cut temples of Abu Simbel in Egypt, and even to the great kivas of the American Southwest like Casa Rinconada, we find a recurring theme. These structures were deliberately oriented to capture the sun on the longest day, the shortest day, or the day of perfect balance. They tracked the moon's long cycle and the rise of important stars. This was far more than stargazing for its own sake. It was a practical and spiritual necessity woven into the fabric of early civilization. By marking the solstices, communities could predict the changing seasons with absolute reliability, knowing precisely when to plant and when to harvest. The equinoxes provided a moment of celestial symmetry, a time for renewal and ritual. Aligning a temple to a specific star's heliacal rising, its first appearance before dawn, could signal the beginning of a sacred month or the flooding of a river. These celestial events became the clockwork of society, the immutable calendar that ordered everything from agriculture to ceremony. What is truly fascinating is how often these different cultures arrived at similar technical solutions. Whether it was the use of a distant horizon notch, a carefully positioned window, or a narrow shaft designed to admit a single dagger of light, the methods are strikingly parallel. Does this mean knowledge was shared across continents, or does it reveal something more fundamental about human ingenuity when faced with the same cosmic puzzle? When you watch the sunrise through a specially crafted aperture, illuminating a dark inner chamber for just a few minutes each year, you are participating in a moment of engineered magic. That moment required deep observation, precise calculation, and a profound desire to make the eternal rhythms of the cosmos tangible. This shared practice points to a common human purpose that transcends culture. It was about anchoring a community to something greater than itself, about finding order in the vastness, and about creating a permanent dialogue between earth and sky. In a world without electric light, the heavens were not a distant abstraction, they were an intimate, living presence. To build in harmony with them was to ensure stability, prosperity, and a sacred connection to the very source of time and life. Such a grand theory of a connected ancient world inevitably faces rigorous scrutiny. The mainstream archaeological perspective offers a powerful counterargument, one rooted in statistics, human psychology, and Occam's razor. Experts like Egyptologist Mark Lehner and many historians of science urge caution, reminding us that with thousands of ancient sites scattered across the globe, some will inevitably align by pure chance. They point to a fundamental human trait: our brains are wired to seek and recognize patterns, even where none exist, a phenomenon known as apophenia. When we look at a map with countless dots representing ruins, temples, and monuments, it is statistically probable that a few will form interesting geometric shapes or align with celestial features simply by random distribution. The key question becomes, are we seeing a deliberate signal, or are we connecting the dots in a way that creates a picture we wish to see? This perspective challenges specific correlations head-on. Take the famous Orion's belt alignment at Giza. Skeptics argue that while the three pyramids do mirror the three stars, the fit is not mathematically perfect. The angles and distances have slight discrepancies, and critics suggest that if you overlay the star map of any prominent constellation, you could likely find a few ancient sites that loosely match its pattern somewhere on Earth. The correlation, they say, may be more a product of selective interpretation than a precise architectural blueprint. Similarly, the appearance of mathematical constants like pi or the golden ratio is often attributed to the practical realities of construction and an intuitive grasp of pleasing proportions. A builder creating a circle will naturally stumble upon a ratio close to pi. An architect designing a facade that feels balanced and harmonious may arrive at proportions that approximate the golden ratio without ever calculating it, simply by adjusting until it looks and feels right. These numbers are embedded in the very fabric of geometry, so their occasional appearance in structures that rely on geometry is perhaps less mysterious than it first seems. From this viewpoint, the shared focus on cardinal directions or solstices is not evidence of a global conspiracy, but of independent genius solving universal problems. Every culture that watched the sky would notice the sun's extreme rising and setting points. Aligning a building to these solar milestones or to true north is a logical, functional decision for creating calendars, marking time, and establishing order. It represents parallel invention, not shared instruction. This critique is vital because it grounds the mystery in scientific skepticism. It asks us to separate compelling, repeatable evidence from tantalizing but potentially overstretched interpretations. It reminds us that the past is complex and often resists simple, unified narratives. Yet, even with this healthy skepticism, the sheer volume and precision of these parallels leave a lingering question. How much coincidence is too much? When do numerous independent solutions, all achieving a similar level of sophisticated precision, begin to suggest a common root? The sheer weight of these global patterns demands an explanation beyond coincidence. One compelling, though highly controversial, answer has captured the public imagination. It is the hypothesis of a lost mother civilization. This narrative suggests that long before the pyramids of Egypt or the temples of Sumer, a single, advanced society thrived on our planet. Proponents of this idea, like author Graham Hancock, propose that this culture possessed a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, geometry, and global navigation. They were not just builders but teachers, a seafaring people who traversed the oceans at a time when mainstream history says such voyages were impossible. According to this theory, this advanced source civilization acted as a catalyst, seeding the foundational knowledge of sacred mathematics, celestial alignment, and megalithic construction to the emerging cultures of the post-Ice Age world. Then, in a dramatic turn, this progenitor civilization was itself wiped from the map, perhaps by the rapid sea level rise at the end of the last glacial period around 12,000 years ago, or by a cosmic impact event. Its cities sank beneath the waves or were buried under ice and sediment, leaving only scattered survivors who passed their knowledge on to the hunter-gatherers they encountered. This, the theory holds, is why we see the same architectural fingerprints and astronomical codes appearing independently across the globe. It was not independent invention at all, but a shared inheritance from a common teacher, a forgotten chapter in the human story. The evidence for this bold claim often points to enigmatic sites that defy conventional timelines. In southeastern Turkey, the discovery of Göbekli Tepe sent shockwaves through archaeology. Dated to around 9,600 years before the Common Era, this complex of massive, T-shaped limestone pillars carved with intricate animal reliefs is over 6,000 years older than Stonehenge and 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramid. According to traditional models, humans of that era were simple nomadic hunter-gatherers, incapable of such large-scale, coordinated construction and artistic sophistication. Göbekli Tepe stands as a monumental anomaly, a temple built before the invention of agriculture or permanent settlement, challenging the very sequence of human development. For proponents of the lost civilization idea, Göbekli Tepe is not an inexplicable outlier, but a surviving fragment, a clue pointing to a pre-existing culture with the organizational skills and symbolic language to create it. This narrative elegantly connects the disparate dots. It offers a single, sweeping explanation for the global grid, the shared sacred geometry, and the precise astronomical alignments found from Giza to Mexico. It tells a story of cataclysm and memory, of a golden age erased and its legacy carried forward in stone. The emotional power of this story is undeniable. It fills the gaps in our history with a grand, unifying vision, transforming the isolated wonders of the world into the scattered ruins of a single, magnificent origin. Yet, it is crucial to understand that this remains a speculative theory, firmly outside the consensus of mainstream archaeology and history. Academics point to the lack of direct evidence for such a global civilization, no submerged metropolises, no trail of artifacts linking these sites to a single source. They argue that human ingenuity is capable of parallel development, and that the slow accumulation of knowledge across millennia is a more documented, if less dramatic, process. The lost civilization hypothesis lies in the fertile space between evidence and imagination, a powerful story that continues to challenge us to look deeper into our past, reminding us that history, as we know it, may only be the latest edition of a much older book. The debate over a shared blueprint versus independent genius strikes at the heart of how we understand human history. It is a conflict between two fundamentally different narratives, each supported by its own compelling logic. On one side stand the diffusionists, who argue that complex ideas like sacred geometry and precise astronomy could not have sprung up independently in so many places. They propose that this knowledge was carried across oceans by ancient mariners long before the accepted age of exploration. The candidates for these cultural couriers are as intriguing as the idea itself. The Phoenicians, renowned seafarers of the ancient Mediterranean, are often suggested for their documented voyages, but some look even further back to the shadowy Bronze Age traders of the Mediterranean or to the mysterious builders of the megaliths who may have possessed maritime skills lost to time. The diffusionist view paints a picture of a connected ancient world where ideas like trade goods traveled vast distances, seeding similar traditions wherever they made landfall. It is an elegant solution to the puzzle of parallel precision, yet this view faces a formidable challenge from the opposing school of thought, the theory of independent invention. Its proponents ask a simple, powerful question: where is the concrete evidence? They point to the immense gaps of time and space separating these sites. Thousands of years and thousands of miles lie between the construction of the Great Pyramid and the temples of Angkor Wat. If there was sustained contact, where are the intermediary artifacts, the shared pottery styles, the linguistic links, or the undeniable archaeological trail that such cultural exchange always leaves behind? The absence of this smoking gun is, for many scholars, decisive. Instead, they argue for the incredible, repeatable power of the human mind, faced with the universal challenges of tracking time, creating stable, monumental architecture, and seeking meaning in the cosmos. Separate cultures may have simply arrived at similar, sophisticated answers. The need to predict seasons leads to solar observation. The desire for structural stability leads to geometric principles. The quest for the sacred leads to aligning buildings with celestial powers. From this perspective, the global patterns are not a legacy of instruction, but a testament to the brilliant, separate flowering of human ingenuity under a shared sun and stars. This debate is far from academic. It shapes how we see our collective past. Are we the heirs of a single, forgotten source, a story of dispersal and memory? Or are we witnessing the awe-inspiring capacity of humanity to innovate in isolation, a story of parallel discovery? The stones do not speak plainly to this question. They hold their secrets close, offering evidence that can be interpreted either way, leaving us to wonder if the truth lies in one narrative or in a complex tapestry woven from both. The search for a hidden blueprint has never been confined to archaeology alone. For centuries, another tradition has kept these mysteries alive, interpreting them not through trowels and carbon dating, but through symbols and secret teachings. This is the world of esoteric knowledge and secret societies, where the geometry of the ancient world was seen as a coded message from a lost age of enlightenment. Groups like the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians did not just admire the Great Pyramid or the principles of sacred geometry, they studied them as sacred texts written in stone. They believed these monuments were not merely tombs or temples, but repositories of a profound, hidden wisdom, a science of the soul that had been preserved by initiates across millennia. For them, the perfect angles and celestial alignments were external signs of an internal truth, a map of spiritual ascent as much as a map of the stars. The compass and square, central symbols in Masonic tradition, are not just tools of the builder's trade, they are emblems of this cosmic geometry, representing the harmony between heaven and earth, spirit and matter. This stream of thought flows from the mystical philosophies of the ancient world, through the secretive Hermetic traditions of the Renaissance, and into the spiritual explorations of the modern New Age. It represents a continuous, parallel history of interpretation, one less concerned with who built these wonders or when, and deeply focused on why they were built and what they mean for human potential. This tradition often adds rich layers of symbolic meaning, seeing the pyramid's chambers as stages of initiation or interpreting the layout of sacred sites as diagrams of spiritual energy centers within the human body. While this esoteric path is distinct from scientific archaeology, its endurance is incredibly revealing. It speaks to a powerful, timeless human impulse, the desire to find a connected, secret history behind the scattered wonders of our world, a story that offers not just facts but meaning. It highlights our longing for a grand narrative, one where the precision of the past points toward a hidden unity and a forgotten wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. This enduring fascination ensures the flame of these mysteries never goes out, continually inviting new generations to look at the old stones and ask not just how, but why. The search for these hidden patterns has entered a new era, powered by technologies that see what the human eye cannot. From the skies above, a quiet revolution is scanning the Earth's surface, stripping away layers of jungle and time to reveal the true scale of ancient ambition. This is the power of LiDAR, or light detection and ranging. Imagine flying over the dense rainforests of Guatemala, where the canopy is so thick it hides the ground completely. By bathing the landscape in millions of laser pulses, LiDAR penetrates that green veil, mapping the ground beneath with centimeter-perfect precision. What it has revealed around ancient Maya cities like Tikal is nothing short of breathtaking. The scans show not just isolated temples, but vast, interconnected networks of raised causeways, agricultural terraces, reservoirs, and thousands of previously unknown structures. The landscape was not a wild jungle with a few scattered ruins. It was a meticulously planned and managed urban ecosystem, a civilization operating on a scale we had grossly underestimated. This technology transforms our understanding from a collection of points to a continuous, intelligent design, revealing that ancient planning often worked on a canvas far larger than any single monument. It proves they thought in networks, in systems, connecting their sacred centers with practical and ceremonial pathways across hundreds of square miles. This hidden infrastructure, now visible for the first time in centuries, is a powerful clue that our ancestors viewed their world as an integrated whole, a philosophy that may have extended far beyond their own borders. At the same time, orbiting satellites provide a god's-eye view of the entire planet, allowing us to test global alignment theories with a rigor never before possible. With satellite imagery and advanced mapping software, researchers and curious minds alike can measure the precise distances and angles between ancient sites with incredible accuracy. This has given rise to a new form of exploration, where citizen scientists using platforms like Google Earth can scan continents, searching for geometric patterns and alignments that might have been proposed only as theories a generation ago. These tools allow us to ask new questions and test old ones with hard data. Is that alignment to a solstice sunrise exact to the degree, or is it a close approximation? Do these three sites truly form a perfect great circle triangle, or is the match suggestive but not precise? The technology acts as a filter, separating compelling correlations from coincidental arrangements. More importantly, it allows us to reanalyze known sites in their full geographic context. We can now see how a pyramid in Egypt might relate not just to the local horizon, but to a mountain range 100 miles away, or how a processional avenue in Peru points toward a distant volcano on the precise day of a celestial event. This shifts the search from speculation to measurement, grounding the mystery in terabytes of geographic data. The ultimate promise of this technological leap is the potential to uncover a scale of ancient planning we never imagined. LiDAR and satellite archaeology are not merely finding new dots on the map, they are revealing the lines connecting them, showing that the isolated wonders we marvel at today were often just the focal points in a far grander design. These tools allow us to perceive the ancient world as its builders might have seen it, not as a series of separate projects, but as a single, continuous act of shaping the landscape according to a sacred and scientific blueprint. With every laser scan and orbital image, we peel back another layer, moving closer to seeing the full picture of a potentially connected past, one where geometry was not just an idea, but the very foundation upon which they built their world. This growing fascination with ancient patterns carries a profound responsibility. As more eyes turn to these sites, a critical question emerges: how do we satisfy our deep curiosity without causing harm? The very monuments that hold these secrets are often fragile, vulnerable to the passage of time and now to the pressure of our modern attention. Every footprint on a weathered stone floor, every touch on a carved surface accelerates their decay. This creates a fundamental ethical tension between our desire to explore and our duty to preserve. The story these stones tell belongs to all of humanity, but their physical care is a solemn duty that falls on both local guardians and the global community. This means supporting preservation efforts that use non-invasive technologies, like the LiDAR and ground-penetrating radar we discussed, which allow us to see beneath the surface without ever lifting a trowel. It also means confronting the damage caused by well-intentioned but misguided enthusiasts. The lure of proving a hidden history has, in some cases, led to unauthorized digs or the disturbing of sacred grounds by individuals searching for tangible proof of their theories. Such actions, even when driven by passion, can destroy irreplaceable archaeological context in an instant, erasing clues that professional researchers could have used to piece together the true story. The path forward requires partnership and profound respect. It involves listening to and collaborating with the indigenous communities for whom these sites are not mere mysteries, but living heritage, places of ancestral memory and ongoing cultural significance. Their traditional knowledge often holds keys to understanding the purpose and meaning of these places that external analysis alone can never unlock. True exploration now means stepping back as much as stepping forward, recognizing that the most important discoveries may come not from extracting artifacts, but from building relationships and employing tools that safeguard the site for future generations. Our quest to understand a potentially connected ancient world must be conducted with the utmost care, ensuring that in our search for answers, we do not become the force that silences these ancient voices forever. The greatest respect we can show for this hidden blueprint is to ensure the map itself does not fade away. The scattered stones and silent alignments we have traced are more than a collection of curiosities. Together, they form a question, one that reaches to the very roots of our shared human story. If the mathematical precision connecting these sites is not a series of coincidences but a deliberate, shared language, what does that rewrite about who we are and where we came from? The implications ripple out, touching history, consciousness, and our sense of possibility. At its core, this evidence challenges the dominant narrative of linear progress, the idea that humanity slowly climbed from simple tools to complex civilization in a straight, upward line. Instead, it whispers of a different rhythm, one of profound cycles. It suggests there may have been peaks of knowledge and cooperation in deep antiquity, epochs of higher understanding that were later fragmented, forgotten, or washed away by the tides of time and perhaps by planetary upheaval. The monuments left behind would then be not the beginnings of civilization, but the enduring echoes of a much older one, stubborn remnants that survived a great forgetting. This view does not diminish the achievements of known ancient cultures, but rather reframes them. It presents them not as isolated inventors, but as inheritors and interpreters, brilliant successors who built upon a foundation laid long before. It paints a picture of a prehistoric world potentially far more connected, not through empires as we know them, but through shared cosmological ideas and a common reverence for the geometric fabric of reality. On a deeper level, this perspective offers a profound insight into ancient consciousness. It suggests that our ancestors did not see a separation between the spiritual and the scientific, between number and nature, or between the earth and the cosmos. They perceived reality as an interconnected, harmonic, and mathematical whole. Building a temple aligned to a star or proportioned by the golden ratio was not a technical exercise, it was an act of participation. It was their way of weaving human endeavor into the eternal patterns of the universe, creating anchors of meaning in the flow of time. For them, the circle was not just a shape, it was the cycle of life, the sun, and the seasons. The pyramid was not just a structure, it was a model of the descending creative force from the heavens to the earth. This holistic perception stands in stark contrast to our modern, often fragmented worldview. Their legacy, encoded in stone, invites us to recover a sense of wonder and unity. It bridges the chasm between ancient wisdom and modern curiosity, suggesting that the quest to understand the cosmos through mathematics and observation is perhaps our oldest and most enduring tradition. To stand before these sites with this understanding is to feel a connection not just to a lost culture, but to a lost state of mind, a way of being in the world that saw harmony where we often see separation. Ultimately, this mystery does more than ask us to redraw maps of the past. It asks us to reconsider the nature of human potential itself. It hints that cooperation on a planetary scale, a deep dialogue with the natural world, and a unifying spiritual vision are not modern aspirations, but may be ancient inheritances. The silent stones aligned across continents become more than ruins. They become a mirror reflecting back a vision of what we once were, and perhaps what we could be again. The greatest mysteries are not those we have solved, but those that remain just beyond our reach. The evidence for a connected ancient world is compelling, yet it opens more doors than it closes, pointing toward a horizon filled with unanswered questions. What are the critical puzzles still waiting to be solved, and what new tools can we use to finally decipher them? The path forward lies not in any single discipline, but in a grand collaboration of sciences. Underwater archaeology holds immense promise. As sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age, vast coastal plains vanished beneath the waves. Could the shorelines where an early seafaring culture might have built its ports and temples now lie submerged on continental shelves around the world? Projects mapping these drowned landscapes with sonar and submersibles could one day find the missing links, the harbors or way stations that physically connected these distant points on the global grid. Meanwhile, in the sky above, our digital eyes grow sharper. Advanced archaeoastronomy software now allows researchers to rewind the celestial clock with incredible precision, calculating exactly which stars rose where on the horizon 10,000 years ago. This technology can test proposed alignments at sites like Göbekli Tepe with newfound accuracy, asking if its mysterious T-shaped pillars were sighting stones for constellations now lost to precession, potentially revealing the very sky myths that inspired its construction. On the ground, another revolution is quietly unfolding in the laboratory. Genetic studies of ancient DNA are tracing the movements of populations across millennia with startling detail. Could these invisible trails in our genome reveal the migration of not just people but ideas? Might they show the movement of skilled artisans or astronomer priests who carried the blueprints of sacred geometry from one continent to another, seeding similar traditions in isolated lands? Each of these open questions circles a deeper enigma. We still do not know the exact ritual purpose of the pillars at Göbekli Tepe, those haunting sentinels from a hunter-gatherer world. Were they a temple, an astronomical observatory, a memorial to a lost event, or something our modern categories cannot yet name? Similarly, the vast Nazca lines in Peru, those enormous geoglyphs only visible from the air, continue to defy a single explanation. Were they ceremonial pathways, maps of underground water sources, or giant astronomical diagrams meant for the gods to see? their full meaning remains an open invitation to discovery. Unlocking these secrets demands that we break down the walls between academic fields. The astronomer must speak with the archaeologist, the geologist with the geneticist, the mathematician with the mythologist. Only by weaving together these separate threads of evidence can we hope to see the full tapestry of the past. The next great breakthrough may not be the unearthing of a legendary sunken city, though that would be extraordinary. It may instead be the development of a new framework, a way of thinking that finally allows us to see the scattered monuments of antiquity not as isolated achievements, but as parts of a single, interconnected story of human aspiration. This is the thrilling frontier where data meets wonder, and where every new tool brings us closer to hearing the whispers of a world we thought was silent. That haunting whisper from the past is a call to reimagine our story, from the polished casing stones of Giza to the solar daggers of Chaco Canyon. A language of number and alignment speaks across the millennia. The evidence laid before us does not demand a single, easy answer, but rather an expansion of our historical imagination. Whether these patterns are the legacy of a forgotten teacher, the brilliant parallel inventions of isolated cultures, or the signature of a shared, spiritual connection to a geometric cosmos, their very existence changes the conversation. They compel us to see the ancient world not as a series of isolated lanterns glowing in the dark, but as a constellation, each point of light part of a larger, intelligible design. Our ancestors stand revealed not as primitive people, but as keen observers of the heavens, masterful engineers of stone, and perhaps as the first global thinkers. They sought to harmonize their lives and their greatest works with the fundamental order they perceived in the world, turning their landscape into a permanent dialogue with the universe. This exploration is not an end but an invitation. Let it be a starting point for your own curiosity. Look at the map of the world with new eyes, where lines of latitude and great circle routes connect more than geography, they connect ideas. Question the timelines, wonder at the precision, and feel the awe that these sites were meant to inspire. The greatest mystery may be the one we carry forward, the choice to keep looking for connections in a world that often feels divided. We would love to hear your perspective on these enduring enigmas. Share your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe for more journeys into history's deepest puzzles, and keep looking up at the stars and around at the ancient stones for the hidden threads that continue to bind our world together.